Hello folks, I'm here today on the UK launch of the new Hyundai Inster. This is one of the most talked about cars from Hyundai in quite a while, and indeed it's been widely spoken about across the globe because it's one of a new breed of small, affordable electric cars. When I say affordable, they're not giving these things away with packets of cornflakes, but we're no longer looking at EVs having an entry point of say 35 grand. The start price for this car is £23,500. That gets you the 42 kilowatt hour Insta 1, which is like base level trim. That comes with 97 PS of power. You can also get that one with a 49 kilowatt hour battery with 115 PS of power. That's 25 grand. And then for levels 2 and Cross, which is the top spec, they only come with that 49 kilowatt hour version. The 2 is 26,745. That's what I've got here today. Then you've got the Insta Cross, which looks a wee bit chunkier. They've done a little bit with some of the body styling. That one's 28,745. And I think really it's only when you get to that top level of trim that it starts to get a bit premium in terms of the price. This is the one Hyundai expects to sell lots of. And for me, it's probably the sweet spot of the range in terms of price versus value, really, what you're getting for your money. Now the charging port's on the front here, and that just tucks away into the trim. It's got a maximum charging rate of 85 kilowatts, but you need to be on a 100 kilowatt charger to get that. If you are on a 100 kilowatt charger, this should get you from 10 to 80% in about half an hour. Now, one of the really clever things in this car is the versatility of the interior. Not only can you recline these front seats, both driver's seat and passenger seat, you can also fold them flat like that. And if you also fold that rear bench flat, you've got something approaching a little van. I've just got to point out a couple of these quirky bits. This panel here is interchangeable. Currently, it's got this in so you can keep things behind it. Not sure what. You can swap that out and have something to hold photos, to hold credit card kind of things. So yeah, it offers you a bit of flexibility. Feels like a bit of a gimmick if I'm being honest, but if it offers some sort of functionality, I'm not dead against it. Okay folks, on to rear cabin space. I've got the boot at its smallest capacity at the moment, thus giving me more legroom. I'm going to move it in a minute and you can see how things change. This is in my normal driving position. I'm 5'9", 5'10", something like that. And I've got plenty of legroom and loads of headroom, to be fair. Nice comfortable seat as well. But you'll see my knees are a little bit off the seat, and that's because we've got a fairly low seat and a reasonably high floor. I've certainly been in worse, however. If we slide this forward, so giving us maximum boot capacity. Oh, didn't do that very gracefully. My knees are right in the back of the driver's seat. And at this point, it would be best for young kids. But given the size of the car, I'm incredibly impressed by the amount of size that's on offer because the space has been used so well. And this really is a TARDIS. From the outside, this car looks like you could pick it up and put it in your pocket. On the inside, it feels really spacious. And that's just down to clever design. Simple as that. Aside from all that good stuff, in the back here, we've got electric windows, another interchangeable panel on the back here, which you can garnish with various attachments. And on the back of the passenger seat, there are a couple of little attachments. We can actually hang an umbrella. All sorts of weird and wonderful little touches in here that just show that someone's thought about everything. Someone's thought about the user. And that's the thing that I love to see in car design. I love when someone sat down for hours on end, or a team of people have, and they've thought about every conceivable way the car that can be used and designed it accordingly, rather than thinking it would be cheaper to make it like this. Really hats off to the design team on this one. And all those clever little touches mean that even at its smallest, you've got 238 litres of boot space. And when you've got this at its widest position, 351 litres. And with those back seats down, you've got 1,000 litres of boot space, which makes this a very clever little car. There's also a little bit of underfloor storage, which is just enough space to keep those charging cables. Onto the front cabin, and it's just brilliant. So the windscreen feels quite far back, and that really helps give you a feeling of space and room in here. And I'll talk more about that during the test drive segment, but I can't really stress that enough. It feels really large for a very small car, and that in itself is quite a feat, really. In terms of connectivity, over here we've got a USB-C, a 12-volt socket and a USB-A, and there's a nice little shelf there just to store your phone on. Under here there's also a wireless charging pad in this Insta 2. We've got heated seats with easy buttons for those. We've got a parking camera. We've got proper physical controls for the aircon system. You can have that aircon on at 3 different levels in case you're trying to conserve your battery a little bit. It means you don't have to go completely without your aircon. You've got direct buttons for map, sat nav, radio, media, setup. I'm using Apple CarPlay at the moment, but the Hyundai system in this is one that's very, very familiar to you if you've driven Hyundais or even Kias in recent times. As is this driver information display, which is very good, really nice and bold. That's a 10.25 inch screen, I believe there, and a 10-inch driver information display. The steering wheel's wonderful. Again, it's familiar to you if you're familiar with the brand. You've got proper buttons, you've got proper dials, you've got a drive mode button. Everything about this car's got a simplicity to it that takes a lot of thought to come up with. It's very easy to over-engineer and solve problems that don't exist by having slidey volume controls and haptics that don't light up until you click on them, and then they can be 15 different things. All this just works. It's all so sensible, and actually that's quite exciting these days, just to get in a car and to be able to use everything without having to take your eyes off the road, without having to read a manual or sit and prod everything for an hour the first time you get into it. As for the materials, you know, they're not the most expensive, luxurious materials in the world, but they feel really hard wearing. This is really hard plastic, but you can tell, I mean, that's solid. That feels really robust. Feels way better than you get in something like the Ford Puma, for example, that feels like it's going to age a bit like milk does. And certainly better than some of the materials you'll find in, say, an MG4, for example. This is an affordable electric vehicle that's not a cheap electric vehicle. Do you get what I mean? So my initial driving impressions of the Inster are extremely positive. I hope those of you that are familiar with the channel know that I'm always extremely honest in my car reviews, and I don't want this to come across like an advert for Hyundai, because it's absolutely not. But it's brilliant. It really is very, very good. So obviously, primarily this is a city car. That's what it's designed to be. So let's talk about that first. It's really light, very easy to drive, very nippy, incredibly maneuverable, as you would expect from a car of this size. It's got a really nice turn of pace to it. Everything you would expect this car to do, it does very, very well. So I'm not going to dwell on any of that, because it should be pretty obvious what this car's supposed to do, and I'll just tell you it does it all wonderfully. But what you wouldn't expect from this car is for it to be fun on the B roads. What you wouldn't expect for this car is it to be quite capable at motorway speeds. And both those things are true. It's also very efficient. I'm currently getting 4.8 miles per kilowatt hour. I've got the aircon blasting, so it's quite a warm day. And I haven't been driving in a sympathetic manner. I don't think you'd have to try too hard to get sort of over 5 miles per kilowatt hour in this car. And efficiency in these kind of cars should be a fairly key factor, especially when you consider that the fast charging speed is only 85 kilowatt max if you're on a 100 kilowatt charger. So you want it to be nice and efficient, and it is nice and efficient. The only downside that I've found with it so far is when you're at motorway speed, you get quite a lot of wind noise, and that's probably because you have got this huge windscreen in front of you. And it's probably not the most aerodynamic thing to have, particularly as it's not particularly sloped, it's fairly upright. But for me, it's worth it. For the rare occasion you're going to take this car on the motorway, a bit of wind noise is easily drowned out by the radio. And obviously we don't have any engine noise, and sometimes in a small city car, you know, you're getting quite a lot of soundtrack from the engine. because they're not generally amazingly well insulated. But I think the fact we've got this huge windscreen and this brilliant amount of sort of forward visibility and a real feeling of space that comes from it. I think this is people will talk about all sorts of things on this car as being well designed, or I don't like this, or it's a bit too quirky or not quirky enough. There'll be loads of differing opinions on that. But for me, the windscreen size and the placement of it is something that I think most people will look at and think is absolute genius, because that feeling of space that it gives you, that feeling of openness, is brilliant. It really is a design masterstroke, I think. I'm a fan, if you haven't guessed. As I said, I don't want this to be an advert for Hyundai. I'm telling you how I find it, folks. But I'm really impressed by this car. On paper, it's not a car that particularly appeals to me. I do quite like small cars, and particularly small electric cars, because they offer that really fun sort of nippiness, easy to handle around town. And I think we've got so many large cars for the sake of it, and there's a real place in the market for small cars, and I don't think we have enough of them anymore. But when I look at design and stuff, it is quite quirky. It's not designed to appeal to a man in his late 40s, I wouldn't imagine. But my word, this is a fun little car. I really enjoy this. Even though the steering's light, as you would want it to be with a city car, it still feels reasonably direct. And that just adds to the fun in the corners that I spoke about earlier. And the suspension's really nice. And it's really helped by this incredibly comfortable seat that I'm sitting in at the moment. It's a really nice, comfortable car. There aren't too many small cars that you feel you could do a decent trip in and get out not feeling fatigued. And this is one of them. It's a joy to drive this thing. To me, small cars have three common kind of downsides. One is that they're often a bit limited on space. Secondly, they're often not that well equipped. And thirdly, they can be a little bit slow. Some of them, anyway. I don't think any of those is a particular issue. I suppose the one that's going to be the biggest issue is the space. But the rear legroom in this, I think this is more comfortable to sit in the back of than a Renault 5. And I seriously didn't expect to say that when I turned up to this event today, because it's a smaller car, you know, it sits below that segment that the Renault 5 sits in, although it probably sits above things like the Toyota Aygo, the real ultra mini cars. But I didn't expect this to be more comfortable to sit in the back of than the Renault 5. The boot space is obviously quite flexible, so if you don't have anyone in the back, you can get a bit more in. The things they've done with the seats, very, very clever. In fact, you can get a surfboard in this car. I mean, I don't know too many people that probably will, despite living by the sea. But it's impressive. And there are so many little clever design touches and things that are there for your quality of life, not just for the sake of it or just to give you another quirk, apart from these things that might just be a quirk. A wise man once said to me that where there is yin, there must also be yang. And there is a bit of that going on here, because I've found something I don't like about the car. I've found a negative point. That big glorious windscreen that sits far back and gives you a wonderful field of view and an amazing feel of space in this front cabin, it's also a bug magnet. It looks like a funeral home for bugs at the moment, and business has been picking up. It is a lovely day, you know, we are by the coast, it is the right time of year for it, but there is plenty of roadkill on the windscreen after about a 40-mile-ish drive. So that's just something to bear in mind. Honestly, folks, when that's the biggest negative I can tell you about a car, that should sort of speak volumes, really. It's a very good bit of kit, and it's going to do extremely well for Hyundai, I think, as long as enough people go and take it for a test drive. And I think that's the key, because this car's far better than I expected it to be. I don't think Hyundai actually makes a bad car at the moment. Right across their range, everything is good. Not everything's not perfect, but everything's very good. I don't think they've got a car that's under a 4-star out of 5 kind of thing, if you get what I'm saying. So I expected the car to be good. I expected it to be very good. I didn't expect to love it, and I do. And it's not designed for a big oaf like me to love. You know, the aesthetics of it are not designed for a bloke of my age, I wouldn't have said. It's just a lovable thing. It's great. So really, folks, this is a car that's blown me away. I try and make very honest car reviews, but there's not too much to dislike about this. It's a TARDIS-like thing. It looks tiny from the outside. Inside, actually, it feels far from it. It's really good fun to drive. It's not going to break the bank. It's well equipped. It's got so much going for it. So much going for it. And I think a lot of people that may have poo-pooed it because of the size on the outside and perhaps its quirky looks would be well advised to go and test drive one, because it is a very decent piece of kit. Now, sometimes we talk about these purchase prices a lot, but most people now are financing cars, particularly EVs, and a lot of people do that with a lease. If you want to see the latest lease prices on the Hyundai Inster, click on the link to Lease Loco that's in the video description. There's also a QR code popping up on the screen that will take you straight to Lease Loco, and you can see all the latest prices on the Inster, and it helps support the channel, which can't be bad. Now, of course, the other thing that supports the channel is by you lot subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up and sharing it wherever you can. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.